I wasn't supposed to be home. That's what made it worse. I opened the front door and froze. My favorite hoodie was on the floor. The gray one I only wore when I needed comfort. Candle burning, the one she teased me for buying. Vanilla cedar. And then I heard the laugh. Not hers. His. My ex. And right there, curled up in my bed, wearing my clothes, wrapped around the man who broke me 6 months ago, was my sister. She didn't hear me walk in, but I heard her whisper something to him that made my stomach drop. And he whispered back, "I like it better here anyway. My name's Jason." I'd gone out of town for a work retreat I didn't even want to attend. 3 days, tops. I asked my younger sister, Lily, to house sit, water the plants, feed the cat, grab the mail. What I came home to, that wasn't house sitting. That was trespassing into my past and trying it on like a second skin. Let me back up. Lily's 5 years younger. Grew up in my shadow, her words, not mine. She always said I got the attention, the praise, the expectations. She got what was left. I never wanted it to feel that way. I did what big brothers are supposed to do. Looked out for her. Helped her with homework. Gave her my old car when she turned 16. Told off the boyfriend who made her cry. Paid her phone bill more times than I can count. When she needed a place after college, I offered my spare room. She stayed 3 months. Said it was temporary. Said I was the only one who made her feel stable. I believed her. So when I got the invite to that mandatory corporate retreat, 3 days of ziplining and trust exercises, she was the first person I called. "I'll even stock the fridge," I said. "You'll barely notice I'm gone." She laughed. "Of course, Jay. I'll take care of everything." That was a week ago. I wasn't supposed to come back until Sunday. And Lily knew that. She even joked about having the whole place to herself for a few days. But halfway through the retreat, I got a call from my boss. His wife went into labor early. Trips canceled. Everyone go home. So I did. No warning. No text. Just me, a suitcase, and the key to a home I thought I knew. The second I stepped into the hallway, something felt off. Air too warm. Music playing. A scent that didn't belong to me. And then I saw the shoes. Not hers. His. Ryan. The man who said I wasn't ambitious enough. Who said he needed room to grow. The man who walked out of our 2-year relationship with silence and a recycled excuse. I hadn't heard from him since. Not a text. Not even a birthday, "Hope you're well." Now his shoes were by my couch. His voice in my bedroom. His arm around my sister. I didn't confront them. Not right away. I just stood there, listening. She told him she liked the light in my room. Said it made her feel safe. He told her it reminded him of the early days, before things got complicated. And then she said something I'll never forget. "He never knew how to keep you. But I do." That was the moment the betrayal landed. Not just her in my bed. Not just him in my house. But the way they talked about me, like I was a phase they'd both outgrown. Like I wasn't the reason they even knew each other. I turned around, walked back out the front door, and sat in my car for 10 minutes, hands on the wheel, heart in my throat. Because what do you do when the two people who were supposed to love you most find each other in the wreckage of your life? You breathe. You break. And then, you start planning what comes next. I didn't sleep that night. I drove around until the gaslight came on. Past the old high school. The lake we used to sneak off to. Even the coffee shop where Ryan and I had our first real conversation. The one where he told me I made him feel seen. Now he was in my bed. With my sister. It still didn't make sense. The timeline didn't add up. Not unless there was overlap. Not unless something started when I wasn't looking. I parked 2 blocks away and walked back to the house around 2 a.m. Lights were off. Car was gone. They'd left. Good. I didn't want to see either of them. Not until I figured out how deep this thing went. The cat meowed from the windowsill when I opened the door. At least someone still had loyalty. I fed him, sat on the couch, and stared at the bedroom door. The sheets were probably still warm. My hoodie was still on the floor. And my silence? It was starting to crack. The next morning, Lily texted like nothing had happened. "Hey, everything's good here. Left a few groceries in the fridge for you. Let me know when you're back." I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, "When were you planning to tell me?" She replied 5 minutes later. That pause said everything. "Tell you what?" I called her. She answered on the second ring. Cheerful. Fake. "Hey, you're back early. Whose idea was it?" She was quiet. "You and Ryan," I said. "Was that the plan all along?" There was a pause. Then a sigh. "Jason." "How long, Lily?" I didn't mean for it to happen. I laughed, short and bitter. "You think that makes it better?" She started talking fast. Said it was a fluke. A coincidence. She ran into him a few weeks ago at the bookstore downtown. He recognized her. Said he'd been thinking about me. Asked how I was doing. She said she thought he was just being nice. But then he asked her to coffee. She went. And then, well, things just happened. He's not who you think he is, she said. He's changed. He regrets what he did to you. So naturally, I said, you decided to comfort him. In my bed. Jason, I didn't mean for you to find out like that. You weren't going to tell me at all. Silence. And then she said the thing that tore the last thread holding me together. You always think people owe you something. That one hit hard. Because I never asked her to take sides. I never made her choose. I only asked her to be honest. To respect me. To remember that loyalty wasn't a transaction. It was a choice. And she chose him. Over me. I'm your brother, I said. I gave you a home. I covered your rent when you lost your job. I trusted you. And I never asked for that, she snapped. That was it. I hung up. She called back. I let it ring. Because in that moment, I knew this wasn't about Ryan. Not really. This was about the cracks that were already there. The resentment she never voiced. The jealousy she never admitted. And the fact that maybe, just maybe, she liked the idea of taking something from me. I didn't go into work that day. I couldn't fake it. Instead, I opened my laptop and did what I should have done months ago. I searched Ryan's name, his socials, his comments, and I found a photo 2 weeks old. Him, smiling, holding a glass of wine at some rooftop bar. Tag, weekend with the sweetest soul. He wasn't alone. Lily was in the background, laughing, wearing a hoodie I thought I'd lost. My hoodie. And that's when I realized this wasn't new. It wasn't spontaneous. They'd been building this lie together, under my roof, while I trusted them both. The ache in my chest wasn't heartbreak. It was betrayal with a name. 2 names. Lily and Ryan. And now? Now I needed to decide what kind of brother I wanted to be. Because forgiveness was off the table. But silence? That was still a choice. For now. By day 3, I stopped checking my phone. It wasn't just about avoiding them anymore. It was about reclaiming my own silence. Every unread message was a reminder. I didn't owe them anything. Not my response. Not my rage. Not even my attention. But inside, I was unraveling. You grow up thinking family is untouchable. That blood means something. That no matter what storms you walk through, the people who share your name won't be the ones who strike the match. But that's the lie they don't warn you about. It's not strangers who break you. It's the ones who call you brother, while they're slipping into your life like it's a jacket that fits better on them. I kept running scenarios in my head. What if I'd walked in 10 minutes later? What if I hadn't come home at all? Would they have told me? Would they still be pretending? Or worse, were they never pretending at all? That night, I poured myself a drink. Not to forget, but to remember clearly, to stop romanticizing the people who didn't hesitate to cut me out of their story the second I wasn't useful anymore. I opened my journal, the one I hadn't touched since Ryan left the first time, and I wrote, if they wanted my life, they could have it, the furniture, the clothes, the leftovers in the fridge, but they don't get to have my peace. Not this time. The next day, I started packing, not because I was moving, not yet, but because I needed to change the environment before it swallowed me whole. I boxed up the reminders, photos, cards, the Polaroid of me, Lily, and Ryan at the beach, the one she framed for my birthday last year. Into the box it went. I donated the sheets, the ones they'd laid on. I replaced the candles, the ones she lit. And then I went to the closet and pulled down a shoebox I hadn't touched since the breakup, the one with all the notes Ryan used to write me. There were 17 in total. 17 moments of tenderness that now felt scripted. One stood out. A yellow post-it, folded twice. You make everything feel like home. He wrote that after I made him soup when he had the flu. Sat with him all night while he sweated through fevers and bad dreams. Home, he said. And now, he'd found a new one. With her. Let them have it, I thought. The rooms, the laughter, the illusion. I didn't want that version of home anymore. That night, I finally responded to Lily's latest message. It was long. Too long. She said she missed me. That it wasn't what it looked like. That Ryan was confused. That it started after he saw how alone I seemed. That she didn't mean for it to become anything real. I didn't answer right away. I let her stew in the echo of her own words. The next morning, I sent her one line. Don't come back. Her reply came fast. Jason, please. I messed up, but we're family. I stared at the screen. Family. Funny word, that. Hard to recognize when it shows up wearing your hoodie and holding hands with your past. I typed, slowly. You chose him. That's not what family does. And then I blocked her. Not out of anger. Out of necessity. I needed air. Distance. A chance to rebuild something without ghosts in every corner. But then, Ryan reached out. Not a text. Not a call. A letter. Folded, sealed. slid under my door like some kind of confession. I stared at it for hours. Didn't open it. Just left it on the counter like a ticking clock, because I already knew what it would say. Some version of, "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was lost. She found me." But that's the thing about being found by someone who doesn't own what they broke. It doesn't make you whole again. It just makes you a story they get to rewrite. I didn't open the letter that night. Instead, I opened the windows, let the air in, and made space for something they never gave me. Room to heal. I finally opened the letter the next morning. It was exactly what I expected. 4 pages. Neatly written. Not a single line crossed out. That's the thing about Ryan. Even his apologies were curated. He said he never planned for it to happen. That seeing Lily stirred something he didn't understand. That he thought of me, often, and it made him ache. That he didn't come back to hurt me. He just couldn't stay away from the life I'd built. He said being around her felt familiar. Not comforting. Not right. Just familiar. And that word told me everything. Because I wasn't a person to him. I was a phase. A safe space he tried on before moving to the next version of himself. And my sister? She wasn't an accident. She was the closest door he could knock on. Not because he saw her, but because she stood near something he still wanted. A shortcut back into a world he thought he might still be able to claim, without doing the work to earn it. What hurt the most wasn't that they happened. It was what it made me realize about the 2 people I trusted most. Lily didn't just take him. She took the version of me that felt seen, chosen, cared for. And Ryan? He didn't just leave again. He dismantled the part of me that still believed people could return without wreckage. I stayed quiet for the next few days. Deleted photos. Unfollowed accounts. Canceled plans I wasn't ready to smile through. People started to notice. Coworkers asked if I was okay. I said I was tired. Neighbors waved and lingered longer than usual, like they knew something had shifted but couldn't name it. Only one person didn't ask questions. Mrs. Lacey, the woman next door. 78. Keeps peppermints in her mailbox and talks to her plants like they're grandkids. She left a note on my porch. When the people we love hurt us, we get 2 choices: keep bleeding for them, or start stitching. Let me know if you need a needle. I laughed. Then I cried. The next morning, I made coffee for 2. Brought her a mug. Sat on her porch. Said nothing. And she didn't ask. That was the first moment I didn't feel completely hollow. Grief is strange like that. You think the betrayal is the climax. But really, it's just the door. The real story starts after. I kept having dreams. Not of them. Of the before. Me and Lily as kids, watching cartoons on Saturday mornings. Sharing secrets under blanket forts. Her clinging to my arm the day she got her braces off, asking if she looked weird. Those memories were loud now. Not because they were gone, but because I didn't know what to do with them anymore. Was she always waiting for a chance to take something? Or did life just break her in ways I never saw? One night, I found myself back in the guest room, the one she stayed in for those 3 months after college. I opened the closet. Still smelled like her shampoo. Still had the blanket she used, the one I gave her. And then, tucked in the corner, I found it. A journal. Not mine. Hers. Part of me didn't want to read it. The other part? The betrayed part? It needed answers. So I opened it. Not to invade her privacy, but to understand the silence. What I found wasn't cruelty. It was emptiness. Pages filled with self-doubt, comparisons, fear that she'd never be enough. Notes about feeling invisible. How no one saw her unless she was near me. One entry stopped me cold. He gets everything. He doesn't even try, and people love him. I feel like I'm living in someone else's shadow, and he doesn't even see it. I sat there for a long time, just holding that page. Because for the first time, I didn't feel angry. I felt sad. She didn't take him to hurt me. She took him because she thought maybe, finally, someone would choose her first, even if it meant breaking the person who always did. I closed the journal, put it back, and whispered the one truth I hadn't said out loud until then. This didn't start with me, and it won't end with her. I was finally ready to move forward. Not with vengeance, not with a lecture, but with release. Because sometimes the only power you have left is the one you give back to yourself. She showed up on a Thursday. No warning, no message. Just her car in the driveway, her silhouette behind the frosted glass of my front door. I stood in the hallway for a long time before opening it. Part of me hoped she'd leave. The other part? It needed to see her. To look her in the eyes and confirm what the past 2 weeks had already been screaming. This version of us. It was over. When I opened the door, Lily looked small. Not physically, but emotionally, like someone who hadn't slept in days. She didn't smile. Didn't try to hug me. Just said, I didn't know where else to go. I stepped aside. Let her in. Not because I forgave her, but because I needed to hear the truth from her mouth, not a memory. She sat on the edge of the couch, like a guest in a place she used to call home. I messed up, she said, voice thin. I know that doesn't cover it. I stayed standing. You didn't just mess up, Em. You made a choice. She nodded. Yeah, I did. And I hate myself for it. I didn't say anything. I never meant to fall for him, she added. Still, I said nothing. She kept talking about how it started, how it felt like something she could control, how being with him made her feel like more than just someone's sister, like she was finally seen for herself. And I believed her. Not the love story, not the romance, but the loneliness underneath it. Still, it didn't make it okay. He didn't love you, Lily, I said, finally. He loved being close to me, even if it meant stepping over both of us to do it. She flinched, but she didn't deny it. I lost both of you, I added, and I still don't know which part hurts more. Then she pulled something from her bag. A necklace. Mine. I'd given it to her on her college graduation day, a little silver pendant with our initials engraved on the back. For strength, I'd said back then, so you never forget who you are. She held it out like it burned in her hand. I don't deserve to wear it anymore. I didn't take it. She set it on the coffee table and whispered. I ended it. With him. I raised an eyebrow. Before or after you got caught? Her face crumpled. Jason, please. I'm not asking for a reset. I just want you to know I see it now. All of it. What I did. What I broke. And I'd take it back if I could. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. I miss my brother. I don't expect you to forgive me. I didn't want the last thing between us to be silence. I wanted to tell her I missed him too. The version of me who trusted her, who believed that love and loyalty ran deeper than confusion. But instead, I said this. I'm still here, but I'm not the same. And maybe that was the most honest thing either of us had said all day. She nodded. I figured. We sat in silence. Just two people on opposite ends of something they didn't know how to name anymore. After a while, she stood up. I'm gonna go, she said. I just wanted you to see that I'm trying. I walked her to the door. And as she stepped out, she turned and said, if you ever want to talk, like really talk, I'll be there. I didn't promise anything. Didn't say goodbye. Just closed the door quietly behind her. And then I stood there, forehead against the wood, hands still on the knob. Because closure doesn't come with an apology. It comes with boundaries. And I'd finally set mine. Part of me wanted to believe she meant it, that if I reached out, she'd be there. But another part, the tired part, knew this was where our story paused. Not with revenge. Not even with forgiveness. Just with space. And maybe, someday, peace. That night, I made tea, sat on the porch, watched the sky bleed from blue to purple to quiet. And for the first time since all this began, I didn't feel broken. I just felt done. Done explaining myself. Done mourning people who made me collateral. Done waiting for a version of the past that never really existed. I was still standing. Still breathing. Still me. And maybe that was enough. 2 months passed. Quietly. Uneventfully. Like life had hit the brakes, then slowly pressed the gas again. Not to speed back into what it was, but to move forward into whatever came next. I went back to work. Rearranged the living room. Took a weekend trip upstate just to clear my head and remind myself I still liked being alone. I stopped waiting for their names to pop up on my phone. Stopped checking social media to see if they were still together. Stopped asking the question that used to keep me up at night. Why me? Because I finally realized it was never about me. It was about what I represented. Ryan wasn't in love with me. He was in love with who he thought I made him feel like, grounded, stable, cared for. Lily wasn't trying to hurt me. She was trying to find herself in the reflection of someone else's life. She thought stepping into my space might finally give her the identity she'd been chasing. I was just the collateral. But that's the thing about being collateral. You survive it. Eventually, you learn how to carry the weight without letting it bend you backward. One Saturday morning, I walked into the local hardware store to buy paint. I wanted a new color for the bedroom. Something lighter, cleaner, like a reset. That's where I ran into Ryan's roommate. Well, former roommate, guy named Caleb. We'd only met a couple times, always in passing, always polite. He looked surprised to see me. Hey, he said. Have you been? I nodded. Better. He hesitated, then said, I didn't know how to reach you, but I wanted to tell you. Ryan moved out. I blinked. What? 2 weeks ago, he said. Packed up. No note. Just gone. Lily came by once looking for him. Said he'd stopped answering her texts too. I think he was overwhelmed. Guilty. Maybe. He wasn't really himself those last few days. Just quiet. Distant. He paused, then added, she looked wrecked. Kept pacing the hallway, asking if I thought he'd come back. Said she couldn't sleep. I think she realized too late she wasn't the exception, just the next. I didn't respond, because part of me had already expected this. That's what Ryan did. He left, quietly, and when shame caught up to him, he ran. I was done waiting for the final word from someone who never knew how to speak the truth unless it served him. Caleb gave me a sad smile. Sorry, man. You deserved better. I thanked him, bought my paint, drove home with the windows down and the music up. When I got there, I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened the photo album. Not the digital one, the old-school binder with Polaroids and scribbled dates in the margins. Birthdays, beach trips, Christmas mornings with Lily, the day I moved into this house. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just looked. Let the past show me what it was, not perfect, not pure, but still mine, still real. Even if some of the people in those pictures aren't in my life anymore. They were once. And that counts for something. That night, I repainted the bedroom, took my time, moved slowly, thoughtfully, layer by layer. And when it was done, I stood in the doorway, sweaty, tired, heart surprisingly calm, and I whispered to no one, "This is mine again, not the house, not the room. Me. My space. My story. My peace." A week later, Lily sent one last text. It wasn't long. Just, "I hope you're okay. I think about you every day. I understand if you never respond. I just needed you to know that I still love you. And I'm sorry." I didn't block her, didn't delete it, but I didn't reply either, because I finally understood something I'd been avoiding. Loving someone doesn't always mean you get to keep them close. Sometimes it just means you wish them well from a distance that doesn't hurt anymore. Some apologies aren't for reuniting. They're for releasing. And I had already let go. So, if you're still wondering how it ends, this is it. There was no confrontation, no big redemption arc, no teary reunion at a family barbecue. Just me, standing in the quiet of a life that finally stopped hurting. Not everything that breaks needs to be rebuilt. Sometimes, it just needs to be closed. And sometimes, the door you close behind someone else becomes the one you finally walk through for yourself, into a life that fits, fully, finally, without borrowing pieces from anyone else's.